right now we'll call this regular board meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners to order, and the roll call of commissioners. Commissioner Cruz.
Here.
Just Commissioner Cruz is here. Commissioner Williams. Give us a wave. Commissioner Williams is here. Commissioner Diaz.
Here.
Commissioner Diaz is here. Commissioner Lyons.
Here.
Commissioner Lyons is here. Last but not least, Commissioner Farrow.
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Farrow is here. Okay, we have a quorum. First item would be the acceptance of the minutes of the regular board meeting, which was held on November 15th. Any questions, comments, complaints? If not,
No, so move.
it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay. Entertain a motion on the acceptance of the minutes of the special board meeting, which we held back on December 1st.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Those minutes are accepted. Starting with reports, we have a report from our newly minted Chief of Police, Chief Porter. Congratulations again. I'm sure you're hearing that. Still, I know it's been a couple weeks, but you must be getting a lot of that, and I know you've been extremely busy already implementing things, and we appreciate your time this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Chief. If I know you've been on some of our meetings before when with the Chief's report. You know, feel free to talk for as long as you want, but you're under no obligation to cover everything that's going on. If you want to just want to make a few points, we know that this is your initial meeting as chief, so please feel free to, like I say, come across with anything you want to give us now.
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. I just want to say, so for tonight, I have a couple comments I want to make, and you know, based on what you want going forward, let me know what you want in terms of an official report, and I'll make sure I put together exactly what you want for each meeting, or if you want me just to, you know, it could vary however you'd like. But just to start, I just want to say it's been a busy but good busy first couple of weeks. We're starting to do and evaluate a lot of different things. Some of the things that we've done just off the bat is to try and strengthen up our some of our losses and some of our patrol shortages. So as we get ready for the new year, we have to do our shift allotment. So Lieutenant Cotto has been working diligently to complete that, and we're in the process of putting together what our shifts are going to be, what our personnel allotment is going to be for the new year. So what we've done is some of our units where we had some officers doing some in-house stuff, we've removed some of those individuals and brought them back to patrol. I'll just give you a rundown. The overtime office, we've taken out 2 officers from there and put them back into patrol. One from the overtime office and one from the Kronos unit, but remaining there is a sergeant and 2 officers. We've also removed 2 officers from our fusion center back into patrol to offset some patrol losses. We've also removed some officers from some other of our task forces where we've had a number of officers to kind of offset some of the losses that we've had in patrol. Our patrol division, as you know, we're short several officers. Some of those vacancies were creating a good amount of overtime. So hopefully this will have a dent in some of that, but we still have glaring losses in terms of our numbers of officers. Just the last 2 weeks, we've lost 2 more officers. I've gotten a resignation from one officer that's going to Meriden Police Department. We got another resignation yesterday from an officer who's going to the Southbury Police Department. So what we've been trying to do is just do more with less. Once we get into the new year, we're going to delineate responsibilities. So some of our captains are going to be doing multiple tasks. So they're going to be handling multiple tasks to kind of shore up and give some supervision to divisions who didn't have some direct supervision in the past. So we're going to be doing that. Really getting out, doing a lot of community engagement. I don't know if you guys have seen, we've done our today was our third Chiefs Corner, where we do Q&As through Facebook Live with community members. We're going to continue that going forward. Just a couple things because this will be the last meeting before the new year, but and we'll touch on some of the things more into the new year, but we're going to be introducing in the new year, we're going to continue Operation Wingspan, where we partner with surrounding communities to do some stolen motor vehicle investigations. We're also going to be starting in the new year with the state. We have a grant with the state police, and we're going to have surrounding towns that are part of this. We're going to have an investigative team that are going to work on some of our non-fatal open shootings, where this unit is going to focus on the non-fatal shootings. Our clearance rate in our non-fatal shootings has been very low. So we're really going to focus in on those to try and bring some of those individuals in to account for some of those non-fatal shootings. Our crime statistics, knock on wood, we continue to be doing very well. Overall crime is down, I believe 30% at this time, and every category is down. So we continue to see gains in those areas. Also in the coming year, as it relates to some of our crimes, we're going to be introducing a new crime analysis platform, where we're going to have a new platform that's going to automatically take the information from our next-gen system and create our crime analysis. And it'll help us with our prediction of where crimes are occurring, where the majority of crimes are occurring, the times, days, and give us profiles of individuals that might be involved in those crimes. And that system now is going to integrate not just the Part 1 crimes, but ShotSpotter as well, and as well as any high areas of traffic accidents. That's going to be incorporated into that as well. So we continue to move forward. We are in the process of working with civil service to, we have a couple of captains openings that we're going to be filling really soon. We're going to be looking to fill some deputy chief spots, 1 or 2, and also bring in an assistant chief as well. So in the very beginning of next year, we're going to look to shore up the department in those areas as well. As you know, I'm sure you're aware that the city is going to be undertaking a personnel study, a staffing study to see where we are, what we need going forward. So I'm told that there are 3 vendors, and they're going to be selecting 1 to do the staffing study. And obviously we'll cooperate and be a part of that. Hopefully we can get that done sooner rather than later. So that'll give us a good picture on where we are and where it'll help us determine where we need to go in the future. Just some things that we hope to achieve in the future is to get some, and I went today in front of the state legislators from our representatives for the legislature to talk about some of our wants. Some of the areas that we're really interested in getting some funding is to help us with our body cameras, the upkeep and storage, in other areas, maybe some chargers for the officers, so they have their own personal chargers for the body cameras, so they stay charged, especially when they go to outside jobs. So just a lot of things we're doing to try and shore up things, be more efficient, more effective. One of the other requests that I made as well was to have an individual to be our CFO, to provide financial guidance for our department, specific to the department where this person will be housed in the department, and they'll help us with our finances and our budgets going forward. And I really hope to get that person involved too. That'll free us up from a lot of our responsibilities and also give us greater oversight of how we spend money and how we use our overtime and things like that. So we have a bunch of things coming planned for the new year. And we just look forward to keeping crime down while we continue to engage with and interact with the community. I don't know if you guys know, tonight we did it's still going on. Actually, it's up until 7 o'clock. It should be wrapping up. We were doing a toy giveaway in front of the police department. I would say maybe 100 or 150 kids I saw today thus far. And the remaining toys are going to be dropped off at different locations in throughout the city. We did that in conjunction with the Goldstone Foundation. But that's where we are. But going forward for these meetings, if you want to give me a overlay on how you want the report to be laid out, I'll do that. Just to update you too, we did some discipline hearings today, so I've gotten involved. We're starting to move along with some old discipline cases, and we were able to resolve 4 of them that we had. There's some more scheduled for next week. At some point, I'd like to speak with the board about discipline to make sure that we're on the same page, that we have parity in the disciplines that we give from the chief's office, as it relates to the disciplines that you guys might meet out, so that we're all on the same page as it relates to discipline. I know I said a lot, but I'd rather answer questions. So if you have some questions for me, feel free.
Your speaker's off there.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. First off, nice job. That was a great report. So you're off to a good start. I would say anything along, those lines where, you can bring us, what your ideas are, how are things moving along, what needs to be addressed. I mean, and that type of update is
Okay.
is pretty much on the money.
Okay.
Before I open it up to questions, I just one other issue I think that was worth mentioning, and you had brought it up on a couple of meetings regarding civilianizing some of the spots where we think we can do that to help with our manpower shortage. So I just wanted to mention that as well, and I know you're a proponent of that, and you got some great ideas to tighten that up a little bit. So
yeah, just when we had a good number of officers, we were able to do that. We just can't do that anymore, and it's just not effective and not efficient, and it's really not in the officer's job description. So we really have to really look at every area based on our manpower issues. One other thing I wanted to mention, and this might be helpful to you guys as well. I met with the lieutenant from the Internal Affairs Division, Razum. And one of the things we talked about was kind of streamlining and condensing their cases, because right now their investigative reports are expansive. They handed me a couple reports that were like binders. So I talked to him about just trying to streamline that process, cutting back on some of the paperwork included in their investigations, or just kind of make their investigation shorter. And try and get those things concluded in a more timely manner as it relates to discipline. We're trying to do that in our office. We're trying to clean up as much as we can, and we're going to try and stay on top of that, so we can get those things done in a much more timely manner.
And we experience the same with some of the reports that come out, and they're a couple inches thick, and there's a lot of fluff in them.
Yeah,
and I agree. I think they could be trimmed down dramatically. So that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Any of the commissioners have a question or two for the chief?
I have my hand up.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't look for the hand.
I'm trying to use the
I know.
features.
There it
that
is.
Thank you, Commissioner
Yeah.
Cruz. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
You
see
have
it.
the floor.
so that we're not talking over each other as we have in the past. Anyway, thank you for being here, Chief
Thank you
Porter.
for having me. No problem.
I haven't been able to tune in exactly at the time that you start the community engagement Facebook activity, but I have gone on there after the fact because of course it's recorded.
Okay.
And I realized that there are many community members concerned about vehicles. I was just wondering, because I haven't stayed on from beginning to end, how were those questions addressed? Because you obviously cannot cover every single question, I don't think, within the hour. Are they being responded back to know which department they should be calling instead of throwing everything at you?
Yeah, well, we try to as much as we can based on the question we responded to direct them in the right direction. And, we leave our number so they can contact us if they need more clarity on where they need to be directed. So yeah, we've been pretty successful in answering the questions, I think, fully, and directing people where they need to be directed as it relates to the
Okay.
vehicles. Yes.
Okay, do you find it that it's effective?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of input, a lot of positive feedback, and I think we're sharing some really good information. And I think it'll be helpful. It's a really good platform to reach out to people who may not otherwise have the ability to connect with us, or they're uncomfortable connecting with us in person. But this is a really good platform for people to connect. And right now we've been sticking to like 15 minutes or so. But if we need to go more, we will. And I also want to introduce other people to the forum, other officers. You may see Lieutenant Cotto there, my other captains, deputy chiefs, and even officers, just to talk about the areas that they work in things that they want to discuss. Next week, we're going to talk about our year-end crime statistics and talk about our crime analysis program that we're going to be doing into the new year. So we're going to share all that information. I think it's really important to be transparent and let everyone know where we are. One of the things I didn't mention is we're working with our IT department to really enhance our website. And we're going to try and put as much information up there as we possibly can to share crime stats, information regarding like forms that individuals might need. So we're really going to try and make it look more, more pleasing to the eye. We're going to try and, spice it up a little bit. So hopefully that'll help too.
Okay, great, thank you. I just have one last question.
Sure.
You talked about a report. I know since I've been, we haven't necessarily received a report from the chief, but that doesn't mean that was bad.
Mhm.
Because you can say everything that you have on paper right to us instead of us getting a copy for. Whatever you find more effective, I'm sure we will appreciate it. But in the past, I recall captains coming to our meetings and reporting on crime statistics, especially when the spot shotter was at it, so that we can be aware map-wise, where is it coming from, where are the most, shootings taking place. I just think it's important.
Yeah,
that we
so
know
that's
that.
a good point. So that's something I'll make sure to include in the next meeting. I'll bring all the crime analysis, the maps where crimes are occurring, and I'll bring the shot spotter report where the shot spotters are going off as well. But ultimately, what we want to do is, obviously, I'll come here and explain it to you, and we could discuss it here. Ultimately, the goal is we want to put that on our website where anybody can go see it. That's all, unless the information is compromised.
Public information.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So that's ultimately the goal.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you.
Hector Diaz.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner. Chief, I have a little bit of a stickler. I've mentioned it a few times to other chiefs. That front desk, when people come in, I've always thought that should be the best impression of the police force. I know you're always 4-0. Every time I've seen you, you've been 4-0 when you're in uniform, top flight. I think that's what the public expects when they go into that front time. And I believe the officers, I'm not sure if in the past it's a disciplinary thing where they put them at that front desk, but I think there's a lack of empathy, if I'm saying it right. They should be our most welcoming. And I had an idea, and I don't know if it's something we can do, but are the classes constant for the recruits? Are we running classes back to back now?
That's our goal. We're trying to get there, but we just have not had enough recruits to do that. But so we have a class right now that's graduating January 27th. There's only 5 Bridgeporters, but we're going to try and run another class in February. So we are trying to get to that point where we do back to back. And as to your point about the front desk, you're 100% right. That is the first impression that people get, or one of the first impressions that they get of police when they come into that building. And oftentimes, you're right, that may be an officer who may be there because we don't want them somewhere else. But regardless, that should be a place where people feel welcome and invited. So that is something we're trying to make that desk much more professional, make the officers respond more professional, but not just the front desk. I mean, everywhere we should carry ourselves in a much more professional manner. I agree.
One of the reasons I said the classes are, those recruits are being drilled on how to wear their uniform, how to address public. They're coming right out of classes on that. And if we had a continuum, it would be nice to maybe have somebody oversee them, but have that type of officer at that desk, someone who's eager to learn and help, you know?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And so what we do from time to time, and they're supposed to do these during lineups, we do inspections where officers are supposed to be inspected and we see how they're dressed or whatever. But one of the big things that I've been pushing since I've been back is customer service. I want us to kind of operate kind of like a business and customer service, where one of my big things is like answering the telephone properly, that you answer the phone in a timely manner and you answer the phone properly. I just sent out a memo maybe last week about clearing your mailboxes. So when people call, because people say I call and it just goes, you can't leave a message because the mailbox is full. So people can leave a message. We're also working on, if you ever call the front desk, our 581-5100 number, that system where you have to make all these choices, you could be on there for 20 minutes just trying to figure out what choice you need to go. So we're just trying to do something with that too. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. It's something that I brought up in the past, and I think that area has to be policed, and it has to look, you know, it has to. It's most people that are going there are going under duress, and
yeah,
it's nice if somebody there has some empathy.
No, I would agree, and you know, so our theme is going to be customer service. But one of the things we're doing in that front lobby area too is, so we had the public works come in, and we talked about cleaning the building better. With all the scaffolding around the building, it kind of looks like a horror movie at times. So we're really trying to emphasize that they clean better. They're replacing a lot of lights to kind of make it brighter. We're going to redo the display in there because all the names and numbers were all jumbled up. So we're trying to do the best we can to make that place more aesthetically pleasing. One of the things I spoke to the delegation today was about, and I'm sure you guys would agree and would support us on this, at some point, we need a building. I mean, that place.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, even when we try to recruit, right? You know, we look at other departments, other cities where they have nice new buildings, and even Hartford has a nice building. It's hard, you know, and they talk about morale. That's the building our officers have to come into every day, where we have leaks and buckets catching water and stuff like that. So.
I agree.
But another point, I just want to add to your point about customer service. What we've done is we've expanded the hours. Like right now or before, the record room closed at 3 o'clock. We're pushing that out to like 4 or 5 o'clock. I saw a young man running in the building at 5 o'clock or 4:30. They said it's closed. People don't work. They get off work later. So we're trying to expand the hours to fit what people need. Even the fingerprint office, we're going to try and expand those hours to fit what people really need, not what's more convenient for us.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions for the chief? Tom.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for joining us this evening. Chief?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. The look of the city. Parking enforcement is under the police department. Am I correct?
I believe they're back under the police department. They've gone back and forth.
You're right. It's been back and forth a couple of times. As of now, it's under the police department. Yeah. Next year, it might be different.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest eyesores of the city, and when I say big, it's literal. Tractors are parked on city streets. It's terrible. It's become almost to the point where once they get away with it, then it becomes like, well, the city's not doing nothing. Why should I have to pay to park my rig? I'm not saying the boxes, but these tractors, I got one. I live at 91 Jewett. At 200 Jewett Avenue, which I can see from my front porch, this guy is parked on the street. I spoke to the neighbor across the street. I says, hey, has anybody ever called that in? One of my neighbors, this was maybe about a year ago, says, yeah, I called it in. The police told him he can't park it on the street to park it in his driveway. which is just as bad because now you got rigs starting up overnight with people sleeping. We're a congested city. It's not spread out where you got an acre of land where, park deep into a long lot, it might be acceptable. With winter months coming, snow, they take up too much parking space. We have a very populated city, and most of these houses, in years past, there was a one-car household. I can remember as a kid. Then it became two when mothers started to work and kids had cars. Now you got tractors. It's the biggest eyesore in the city. I would think it would be, with a new chief, a good look that if the public knew, like, hey, the chief's cracking down on all these trucks parked on, the public would be elated. I can honestly say that's a good start, which is really a quick fix. Just tag them. You got to move them. You can't. It's not. It's your work field. You can't park it on Jewett Avenue.
So a couple of years ago, while I was still here as a captain, we saw an increase in tractor trailers parked on city streets, and we started getting a lot of complaints. So currently, as the law stands, believe it or not, they can actually park on the streets. They just can't park overnight. So if it's not an obstruction, if they're not creating an obstruction during the day, they actually can park on a city street. They're not supposed to be overnight. So what we've done in the past, we've had our enforcement teams on the overnight shift go out and tag them at night. But unfortunately, during the day, we really can't take enforcement action unless it creates an obstruction. But some of the things that we talked about when we had this, we used to meet with Mr. Seamus and some other individuals about this issue, was if the city or some had a pot of land where we could ask these people to go park, maybe even if it was fenced in and they were charged, if there was a private owner, to get them off the street. But yeah, it is an eyesore, but if they're in their driveway, there's nothing we could do. During the day, if they're not blocking, and if they're not creating an obstruction, there's not an infraction that we can give. We can only do it overnight. I know it's frustrating. We've researched and dealt with this for the last couple of years, but we are mindful of it. So if there are areas where there's an obstruction, let us know. If it's creating a noise complaint, that's something we can come and try to address. But yeah, it is an eyesore. I agree. But unfortunately, unless we get some ordinances changed, it kind of ties our hands a bit.
This is
Chief,
Commissioner.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Williams. I have to step off. We're turning it over to Ed Farrow, but thanks again, Chief, and I'll touch base with you tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye, folks.
Along those lines, if you really think about it, it is an obstruction on some of those streets. Because you have to be able to get past that tractor. So that means you have to go into the other side, the opposite lane, to pass that tractor. It's not only on Jewett Street, it's on Ryan Street on the north end down from Platt Street. I see them all the time and I try to take a picture.
Downview Avenue, yep.
Yeah, and so they're all over. So they are an obstruction because when I look at them, they're parked and they're taking up midway of the street. So in order to pass those tractors, even if it's parked in the daytime, you have to go in the opposite oncoming traffic, and you can't see the oncoming traffic that's coming. So that is an issue. And 9 times out of 10, because when I leave in the morning to go to my mom's house on Platt Street, that tractor is there first thing in the morning. Now, whether they work overnight and they just parked it at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's not considered that's their day. You know what I mean? That's what you're probably going to run into because of the hours that they work. They're going to say, well, I wasn't parked overnight. I just parked here at 4 o'clock. But, when most people go to sleep and they see a tractor and they wake up, and it's on the east side as well, because, we had some complaints about that as well. We had actually the community come in and they complained about on the east end and the east side that these tractors are coming and they're more about. And I agree with you, but you know what? There's a commuter parking lot. There's commuter parking lots that they can park in. If they, have to come here, to come home, they should be in commuter parking lots in an area where it's not going to cause.
No, I agree. But you do point out a good point. And so what I'm going to do is when I get off tonight, I'm gonna call our overnight shift to have them check. Because you're right, if you do, sometimes they're so wide and our
Yes.
streets are so narrow, you
Mhm.
do, it is a natural obstruction, just going around them. So,
Going around
I'll
them.
make a point of, calling them to look into that tonight, and I'll have Lieutenant Cottle make a note of this as well. So what we'll do is, so this continues to be an issue, obviously, even before I left. So what we'll do is, when we meet at our staff meeting tomorrow, we'll discuss this and see if we can come up with a plan to maybe go out and attack it. The ones that are, if we can find the owners, we can tag them and get them to move them. The tough ones are when they are,
Rented. by the company.
yeah, it's hard to get a tour, but
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll discuss this at our staff meeting tomorrow. See if we can come up with a formidable plan to address this.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for, accepting the position coming out of retirement.
No,
I know how it is. I'm retired, but I'm working too. So congratulations.
Hey, sometimes it gets tough looking at those walls all day long.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Cruz, get ready.
I just wanted to say, I'm surprised that I know that Commissioner Roach had to leave, but he was my go-to person. I had a trucker, I had some residents that owned commercial trucks, and even those huge tractor trailers, they were parked on my street for weeks at a time, literally overnight. And when I called them, he sent whomever over, they were ticketed and they discovered that neither of the vehicles were registered. So, if they can put just a note on the window, I mean, they're responsible for whatever comes their way. They have no business doing that.
Yeah. No, it's, I'll tell you, it seems like it was like maybe around 2000. It just all of a sudden they started popping up all over the city streets. It was like, we were like overwhelmed with them. I don't know if it was COVID but for some reason, we just got an influx of truckers or something in the city of Bridgeport, which is good, but they need to park.
They like Bridgeport. They like Bridgeport.
Yeah.
No, a lot of them went into taking CDLs. They realized that they can take their CDL license and they can own their own businesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reentry population are doing that as well.
Which is a good thing. It's a good job. And, I'm happy for them, but they just need to be more responsible in how they park too. I would agree.
Thanks, Chief. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be talking more as time goes on. Thanks for your report. You did a good report for the first time.
No, not a problem. And I'll make sure I have something more, for more detailed and more chronicled, for the next time.
You say what you feel like you need to say during your time as the chief. Relegating you to any specific format or anything.
Yeah. One quick comment for Commissioner Lyons. And would you guys indulge us for a minute? Do you remember Kevin Webster? You know a guy by the name of Kevin Webster? All right. Okay.
I competed against him.
Yeah, he told me.
Yeah.
He told me. All
From
right.
Norwalk.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Thanks. Anybody else have any more questions for the chief?
All right, I'll call you back.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. You guys.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Good holidays.
All right. You too.
Blessings. Have a great holiday.
Likewise. Stay safe.
You too. Likewise.
We have any representation from the union tonight? Representation from the union?
That's a negative, sir.
Thank you. So nothing from the union. So that this leaves us with you, Inicato.
Sure. Good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
Just draw your attention to the item, the agenda that has the red highlights on it. There is one. Step 2 notification, internal affairs case 22I 136. Other than that, Barrows cases and all the step 2 cases are all up to date. So we do have one notification, and it's about 3 weeks old. Actually, yeah, it's about 2-3 weeks old. I'll get the date that was sent over to me, but that's all I have.
Are you trying to
Schedule something, or do we want to put it on the back burner? It's up to you guys.
What's your pleasure, everyone?
we need to schedule. I think
Yeah,
our
let's get it
calendars
done.
get full pretty quickly.
I agree.
How much time you think you need to set that up, Lieutenant?
I, out of respect to the complainant, I would give them 2 weeks notice. With the holidays and, anything after 2 weeks, which probably takes us into the new year, first or second week into the new year, I think is respect for the complainant.
You want to stick to a Tuesday or Thursday?
I could do either as long as it's after 6. I get out at 6. I mean, I could leave a little early on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm off. Thursday. So
Okay.
Hold on, you said you're off on what day?
Tuesdays, I'm always off on Tuesday. So Tuesday is always easy. But Thursday, I get off at 6. So I can run over, I can leave at 5 or 5:30.
So if we need city attorneys and we're giving ample notice, if they're not available Tuesday, maybe Thursday,
Yes.
the 10th, right?
Step two
The
of
10th and 12th.
To step
And then 12.
city president, the board.
If it works for everybody, it works for me.
This is board. So, so it could be the 10th, 17th, or the 12th, right?
On the 12th.
You want to say, I mean, you said you want to give them a couple of weeks. Let's,
That's
The
like
third-
3 weeks from now.
right.
That's really 3 weeks.
And third Tuesday, we're at our meeting, so it's either 10th or 12th. So you want to look at the 10th? You think that works, Lieutenant?
Either date works for me.
Does the 10th work for everyone else?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams? No?
I'm checking.
Commissioner Farrow, I didn't get a chance
I
to
should
say
be
hi.
okay.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, brother. You can do that, Commissioner
Yeah.
Williams?
Yes,
So
I'm
on,
okay.
Lieutenant.
Okay, so we're gonna do the 10th or the 12th.
Either
10th.
or.
10th?
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna set it for the 10th at 6 PM. And I will reach out to each of you either by mail or by text after I get back from the complainant that they're available. Other than that, regarding the clerk's report, I don't have anything else.
All right,
I
we'll
have
send-
I mentioned to, we need to bring back the issue. We've never addressed the issue with the Internal Affairs Lieutenant. That has to be brought back to the table.
Can you, Commissioner Williams,
I'm sorry?
can you elaborate on what you're?
The lieutenant who used the collect system to
Oh.
run the, yes, that has not been addressed. We keep pushing it off and waiting for the city's attorneys to respond, but there was just recently a case here in Connecticut where an officer utilized that collect system to follow or get the woman's address and things like that and started stalking her. And they put him on, I think, administrative leave until they conclude their, so, we have that same issue here and we don't want that to become something that Bridgeport is not addressing. And as I said before,
We did address the matter. The sergeant was put on administrative leave. An investigation was conducted and the sergeant was disciplined. Now,
Correct.
regarding the board, I believe there was a separate issue that was raised by the guardians that was requesting that the sergeant be removed.
correct, that's what I'm saying. We did not address that part.
Yeah, but regarding the discipline and the admin, we played everything out to a T. So that was concluded regarding administratively.
Correct, but what I'm saying on our end, we have not concluded our end. And nor did we get back to the guardians about that.
Well, I guess, and Commissioner can have just a brief conversation. And I guess this is based on the clerk's report. So we're going to stick this in your area, Lieutenant. hold you up for a second here. I guess, Commissioner Williams, I hear you. And I guess I need to understand, what are you thinking we as a commission need to be doing on this part? Because technically it was no citizens, but we got a fraternity or a group saying, hey, they're us directly as if we have some affirmative responsibility to act. And I don't know that we necessarily have authority to act. So I have,
And that's what we were asking the city clerks to give us an answer, and we have not gotten an answer back. I mean, the city's attorney
Right,
about that. And so
Right.
so we haven't acted or did anything on this. We're kind of just letting it go with the discipline that he received. So we
Right.
still have to, do our due diligence and conclude this, whether we agree or we don't agree, whether we move him out or we don't move him out. But we have to do something.
I think to your point earlier, I think that's in the city attorney's purview to let us know what authority we actually have to do what you're talking about, because I don't know that we necessarily have that authority. So I think that's the question that needs to be answered. And Lieutenant Cotto, I don't know if you've already.
And it's been months. It's been several months.
Yes, I invited the city attorney to the meeting several times and didn't get a response. So I don't know if this is something that Commissioner Roach, fortunately, he's not here, may want to.
And I
address.
brought it up to him as well to follow up on it.
All right, so that's
May I
something.
ask Lieutenant Otto, was that a question posed by you or on behalf of the commission? Because I think that the city attorney, it should not be ignored. And
Right.
if it goes directly from the city attorney's office to the group that we're referencing, am I correct?
Mhm.
Then it doesn't fall on our laps and we don't feel obligated to have to respond to them.
So
But at least they get a response.
I'll back up a little bit. I believe it was either the first or second meeting, that when I stepped in as the clerk, it was brought to my attention. And I did act on it. And I sent
I believe you did.
several emails that I have copies of. And unfortunately, there wasn't a response.
Mhm.
So, Commissioner Williams, you're right.
Yeah. And my concern is if the mere fact is, and I'm gonna be blunt with it, he needs to be removed because that department does a lot of checks. And that's where all the background checks are ran. And if you have someone that has utilized it inappropriately, and you're still having that person in that position, and they're utilizing that system. And the only thing, that came out on it, supposedly, yeah, everyone tells on themselves after they do what they do. But he knew he was going to be caught because it takes a record of what you're pulling. It prints out everything that you do on those systems.
I
So-
understand what you're saying, Commissioner Williams. I think if we kind of step back a little bit, I think based on the fact that it has been addressed and Lieutenant Cotto said, it cannot fall back on our lap just because we want to make a decision that this person gets terminated, right? That's
We're not
probably
saying
what
no,
should
we're
have
not
happened.
terminating. No, not terminating. Relocate.
Okay.
There's no
Relocate.
terminate. We can't do discipline, but we
No,
can.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But because it's brought to a closure and the discipline already took place, no one has filed a CC1 for it to fall in our laps for us to even make that suggestion or recommendation. So the
The-
city attorney really has to let us know, where do we stand from here?
The police fraternal order brought it to our attention, right?
Mhm.
So it was brought to our attention, which should have been brought to our attention before the outside brought it to our
Correct.
attention.
No,
So
absolutely.
that's the first problem.
Mhm. Right,
And that's
and
a severe-
it didn't happen that way, correct.
Correct. And that's a severity, and I don't know, I know because of the system I worked with. And those systems are, really, and you're almost taking an oath to utilize the system and not utilize it for personal reasons. So now
Oh, it's
you have
definitely
someone,
wrong.
now you have
Yeah.
someone that's in there, and now they're doing investigations on other people.
Hmm?
And you have to look at the severity of that.
And it's setting a precedent too.
It is. The other person who
Going
utilized it was transferred.
Commissioner, yes, I think you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, as you were saying, a second ago, Commissioner Williams, the system can be, is checked. It prints out everything every day. I don't know if we have the authority, but we do have the authority to suggest when we meet with the captain that we are uncomfortable with him being at that location. I think that that's something that if the commission felt the same, is something that we could bring up to the captain. I don't think that we have the authority, if we don't have the authority to mete out some type of, or to penalize the officer, it doesn't stop us from suggesting our feelings if you have strong feelings on this issue. And if you want to do it as a commissioner yourself, or if you want to do it as the commission as a whole, then all of us would have to agree on that. But I believe that one of the benefits of us being on the commission is that access that we have to the chief and the ability to express those opinions. So if we use those opinions and the chief is in accordance, then your what you want to be done will be done. And if he's not, it'll be explained. So I think that it doesn't, that wouldn't violate anything. It would just be that we are suggesting you are suggesting in your position as a commissioner that officer should be relocated to another.
And that's all I'm saying is we had not put closure to this particular, all the other ones, yes, but this one just kind of went by the wayside.
I think it's because we've been waiting for an answer from the city attorney on something that really now that we have a new chief and we have someone that I mean, we always, any of the chiefs we could have approached in this manner and probably would have had a good result or a positive result. That's why we're on the commission to express those ideals, So if you want to sit or make something, but I think that a suggestion to the chief would be enough. We wouldn't have to. I don't know. Is everybody in accordance?
We have to get clarity because I believe that we're the ones who vote these people in the first place, and we're probably the ones who can take them. And so the question is whether or not we have authority, especially in a situation. We've run into this situation before when Chief Perez was around, when the chief meets out discipline, whether we can also then turn around and further mete out additional discipline, whether that's 2 times, disciplining the person, whether that's appropriate. And then, like I said, it could be that we have the authority to remove people from internal affairs because we also have to vote on them being a part of internal affairs. And so I think Lieutenant Cottle has already sent out an email to, it looks like Bohannon, right? You just sent an email?
Yeah, I just shared with you guys the email that I sent to the city attorney back in, I think it was August, that I didn't get an answer from. I don't know if he had a sidebar conversation with Commissioner Roach. This might be something that maybe you guys need to speak with Commissioner Roach with. I don't want to speak for him because I don't know what was discussed, but I did try to reach out to the city attorney because I did find Lieutenant O'Donnell's original request that went back to March 17th. So, I mean, it's coming up on, we're already past 9 months since the original request and no answer.
So here's the thing. And then you guys have to figure, I guess as a group, I say you guys, like as if you're separate from myself, we have to determine how we're going to start dealing with the city attorney's office. And Errol, who seems to be on this call, even though I can't see his face, I don't think it's in the city attorney's office any longer, but so I guess we can't really pick on him at this moment, but we really have to be more diligent about bringing the city attorney to the table, because it's all too often, and I think unfortunately, and I'm just going to speak openly because that's how I feel, that it's become very political when we want to ask for particular types of things. Thanks, Errol, for showing your face. Everybody saw my friend's face. All too often when things are really political and sticky, we ask questions and then it becomes this thing. If they stay quiet long enough, maybe we'll forget about it. And Commissioner Williams is bringing it to our attention. I appreciate that. But then we should be diligent about getting back to the table and saying, hey, we really need the city attorney's office at the table because we had a question, we haven't gotten an answer, and we have to start demanding answers. And so that's just kind of where we have to go with it. So I think between myself and the rest of you, we can talk to Commissioner Roach and say, hey, this is what we need. And any of us who have a relationship with the city attorney's office, I guess, as I oftentimes do, just go knock on the door and say hello. And by the way, what happened to the answer to my question kind of thing, you know? So that's our responsibility. And you feel strongly about that, Commissioner Williams, feel free to address Commissioner Roach because he has access. And then some of us have access as well. And I can ask the question as well. So did you have something to say, Commissioner Williams? It looked like you were reaching for the mute button.
And I have spoken with him about this, and he was supposed to look into it as well. So that's why I want to keep putting it on the record. And I'm going to keep putting it on the record because we're held accountable. And if we're going to do, our job, do diligently, we need to make sure that we're answering whether, you don't want to call them the public, but they are the public as well. So we need to answer every single one that comes in, and it is a complaint.
And thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Dean.
Quick question: is it necessary punishment to reassign them to another place to take them out of there to somewhere else? Is that necessarily considered punishment?
Right. I don't think it's considered punishment.
Yeah, I think again, if you suggested, I don't think it's even discipline as long as he maintains his rank and his pay status and everything. So I don't think that at that point we're not meting out justice. We're more again suggesting that they reposition someone.
Correct.
For the good of the community and your feeling for the good of the community.
And the good of the community, because we have to think about it going forward. If you have someone who's been dishonest on their own part, and now they're doing reports and they're doing investigations, and they're doing investigations on their own individuals. And what if, someone says, oh, I wasn't treated fairly because of this person? And we have to answer that, those are things that we're going to look down further down the line. People are going to start saying that. Well, how can we,
Well, here's one of the challenges, and this is the elephant in the room that we're not talking about, because when you start talking about the types of things you're talking about, dishonesty and all these other things, it's not about necessarily moving people to a different position. These are the kinds of things that render a police officer, inadequate and not capable of doing his job. And so that's an entirely different issue. And we really have to take what we're talking about here very serious.
I agree.
And so, I think we need to bring.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And the integrity, that's the integrity I'm speaking on, is the integrity of you taking your own actions, your own personal actions, and utilizing the police departments, for your own personal gain. That's what this is really about. And a lot of times, if we, and sometimes people come up before us and it's unprofessional, right? We might get cases where police officers there was another, and I follow it because I get a lot of the criminal justice news and things like that. There was a police officer who raped a woman in her own vehicle. Advancements. These are things that we're talking about. You're taking the authority in your own hand. It goes beyond just utilizing that collect system. But we got to think about how and why, they're utilizing it, because it's personal gain. A lot of it is personal gain. And we got to hold people accountable.
Well, like I said,
that's all I'm saying is accountability. I don't have a problem going down to and doing it. I'll speak with Roach. I don't have a problem writing a letter. I don't have a problem, but I'm very adamant about this because I had to uphold that oath. And family would, not family, but friends would try to ask me to run their plate, to run this person's plate, try to get information on this person and that person. But I knew that it was my job that was online. If I utilized it for personal reasons, that I could lose my job. And I understand adrenaline and all that. I understand that. That's why I'm adamant about this. I really am.
Okay.
Well, there is no doubt that the policy was violated. And so I think we want an answer. So let's address it.
So Lieutenant Cotto, if you don't mind, I hate to put more on your plate. Between Commissioner Williams talking to Danny Roach, I'll talk to him as well. If you don't mind putting another notice out to the city attorney's office as a follow-up to say, hey, the commissioners are concerned that they haven't heard back concerning this particular issue.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I'll actually send a new email to Attorney Anastasia, who's in charge, and I'll CC each of you in the email so that if he does reply, maybe he'll reply all and you could get an answer. Maybe we can invite him to the next commissioners meeting and we could discuss this in private, not over a public Zoom meeting. There is
Yeah.
And I
sensitive
think
information that needs to
a
be discussed.
recommendation, if I can, and we might have to talk, Roach is not on, but anything that should be going out on our behalf, he should be CC'd on.
He is.
Okay, I just looked at this one, I didn't. And I could, I don't have my glasses on, so if you CC them on this one, I don't see it.
No,
I'm
that was a rookie mistake. I think that was like my first on your behalf.
You
So,
know me.
I told you guys I got this with no instructions, so kind of learned on the fly. But going forward, regarding all the pension stuff, I already spoke to them. I do want Commissioner Roach CC'd on everything because I'm not the board of police commissioners. I only act on your behalf. So I want you guys to have equal share and notice of everything that goes on.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And to your earlier point, I think is another point well taken, that this is probably not appropriate for a public forum conversation. So that being said, we got our marching orders. You're doing what you need to do. Commissioner Williams, you're going to have your conversation with Dan. I'll also have a conversation with him as well. Since you're already on the hot seat, Lieutenant, you got number 3 to deal with, and that's a request to review and reprove an update to the department policies 10.08 records management and 6.13 crime prevention, as well as I believe you have an addendum
Yes.
to also address department policy 3.10. So if you want to, I guess, present those so that we can discuss them.
Okay.
And make a vote.
Yeah, so I'm going to call your attention to the highlighted areas. These policies have already been approved by the board. These are certain areas which are called standards by the state of Connecticut. So what I'm doing right now is we are currently tier 1 accreditation certified with the state of Connecticut. When we go for our reaccred, which is in 2024, we're not going to 2, we're going right to 3. We're ready to go for 3 right now. It's just the state trying to get the rest of the police departments in the state over the hump. They're not ready to look at our files. So as I report yearly, I'm reporting for accreditation level 3. So each of these standards and each of these changes in the policies are recommendations that have to be added to our policy for tier 3 accreditation. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is policy 10.08 records management. And it has to do with passwords and releasing information to the public, computer security and confidentiality. This is language directly from the standard. There isn't much about this other than that. I'm just gonna go through all three of them, and then if you have any questions, I'll just address your question to the particular policy. Policy 6.13 is our crime prevention policy, and it talks about ways for the police department to engage with the public outside of official law enforcement capacity. One of the areas that I had taken out of our policy back when this policy was approved was the citizen survey. I knew it had to be in there, but I knew our department wasn't ready to go forward with it. And the last thing I wanted to do was put something in a policy that necessarily we weren't ready to do. We were kind of backed up with trying to get over the hump for tier 1 accreditation. This is a standard for tier 3 accreditation. But after speaking to Chief Porter, he's all for this. He's actually started the ball rolling on looking at particular vendors to start the citizen survey. I think it's really important for our department so that the public can grade us, and we can improve in certain areas that we may be lacking. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say we're going to be over 70% satisfaction. I'm the optimist in the room, but this is going to be interesting to see and to hear what the public has to say about us. The last policy is 3.10, and this is the officer involved shooting policy. I believe the highlight portion starts at page 11, and it has to do with responsibilities of the chief and notifying the government on certain stats regarding officer involved shootings. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If anyone has any questions regarding these 3 updates or anything else.
Commissioners? Go ahead, Anna.
Thank you. I had a question, Lieutenant, regarding records management.
Yes.
When other agencies and law enforcement departments are requesting that confidential information on juveniles, let's say, for example, are you saying that that information, obviously the request has to be made in writing, correct? By fax or email?
Yeah, I believe that's what the policy says, yes.
And then the turnaround time, it's like, who's responsible for that?
The
The
records,
records department? So if they need it right away and
I'm
late at night,
just getting ready to say, so we have different levels of requests. And this is similar to like our NCIC. We have what's called an immediate request, law enforcement emergency request. And then we have a routine request, and it's something that we kind of know between each other. So like an emergency request would be, you have a person detained and you're looking for particular information on a particular case because there was a bolo out for this person and the officer has them stopped. That's an emergency request. We have some at our front desk 24 hours that, they could act on. Your routine request is, you have a case and the juvenile has been involved with a couple of other things and they're just looking for information. Big difference between the 2 different types of requests.
and generally this information is issued on a confidentiality through the system?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Diaz?
I'm sorry. No, I don't have a comment.
Commissioner Williams?
I think we had discussed this the last time when we were going over the policies and procedures, and I know you were working through them, and I thought you were going to go through them and make the changes to the current chief, acting chief at that time, or the current for those policies.
So that's up to a Chief Porter if he wants his name on every policy. If I was the chief of police, I would not want my name on a policy that I didn't approve.
I know, I thought at the last time we had discussed that, the former chief, Garcia was going through these and reviewing these policies. I thought that was the last conversation we had. Because I noticed that this one, 3.10 still has Chief Perez's name on it.
Yes,
And-
so I sent that addendum out yesterday and I didn't get a chance to update it, so it's still in draft form. And I was trying to get it out before the 24 hours so that we're compliant with the rules. So to be honest with you, I really didn't have time to update it with Chief on it, but the draft that I'm looking at right now actually has his name on it, and that's the one that he'll be signing off on, so.
But that's what we had stated, that anyone that comes before us, we ask that it has the current chief's name on it.
Yeah, I just didn't have
I know,
time.
I just want to make sure that we're on the same line.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Obviously, you'll update that, Lieutenant, correct?
Yeah, I could send you out the
But
email.
he said it, he has the draft updated, but he didn't send it to us. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
I believe the ones I have Chief Porter's name on them.
Thanks,
Not
Commissioner.
all of them.
The ones I have two of them, and they both have records management has Roderick, Chief of Police, Roderick Porter,
Yeah,
and I believe the other one. I printed them out today, though. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
this was-
No,
this
I can see that they have Chief Porter.
Yeah,
There's
this was the
three,
addendum
there's
I sent
three.
out last night. I just sent you guys the updated copy that I did actually change his name on it, but
Right, the officer involved shooting does not.
I just sent it
Not a
out right
problem.
now, the updated version. Check your
No,
email.
no, I know, but they were saying they had all, but they didn't have the third one.
Oh
thank
my-
you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lyons, did you have something? Thank you, Commissioner. I just have two questions. One, as far as the shooting policy, and make sure I'm looking at the right thing, officer involved shooting policy, is it the standard or is this, and I'm saying standard, 'cause I know a lot of these you adopt obviously from, I guess there's a standard that you adopt it from, right?
So the standards come from Post, which is
Post.
our accreditation agency, our accreditation body. And they dictate to us what our policy should have in it. So I necessarily take the love child between our old policy, what's currently going on, and these new mandates from Post. And you know, and then we work with our consultant. So for example, if you go to Hartford, it's pretty close to a mirror image policy that they have. Obviously, this isn't Hartford, so there'll be some, you know, minor changes here and there. But for the most part, most accredited departments, you're going to see the same information in all of our policies. And that's one of the you know, the beauties of being accredited and now being a law that every department in the state has to be accredited. You know, so if there is like an incident where several departments are working together, most of our policies are going to be governed the same way. There shouldn't be any questions of, you know, like a use of force. We all follow the same use of force policy. We all follow the same pursuit policy. This falls under use of force. So the same guidelines that I have in my policy here, if Fairfield is a tier 3 accredited department, they have to have the same standards in their policies.
But I guess, yeah, because what I was looking at really, to be more direct, had to do with the policy of sharing what was on the body cam at the time of any incident like that. So it's like, it looks like within 2 days and not more than 4 days that they're supposed to allow the public to see what was ever on that body camera, what was uploaded, right?
That's a state law.
Okay,
Yeah, so there's no bearing from that. That's a state law.
got it. Okay. The other thing I had to just, and if you can just answer this briefly, I'm not, you know, wanting to dig too far into it, but on the policy dealing with crime prevention and this, and where you have it highlighted at 3I, and it says proactively promote public trust by initiating positive non-enforcement activities to engage communities that typically have high rates of investigative and enforcement involvement with law enforcement. Do you have any idea what that actually entails? What does that look like in practice?
So if you look under it, we did list some of the programs, such as like the Neighborhood Crime Watch program, which is under 4A. You have
Yep.
Neighborhood Contact program. I know we stopped the ride along program because of COVID and just the dangers of the ebb and flow of COVID and affecting officers. But, all that information is listed below: police department tours and speaker program. And I believe Chief Porter actually spoke about bringing back a lot of these programs that, we did step away from. But, obviously the latest one would be the citizen survey.
Okay. Yeah, because I see that you have all those programs down and have it highlighted, but I was just curious when you said non-enforcement activities to engage the community, and then, but then it also speaks to high rates of or areas that have high rates of investigative activities, I guess, right, and enforcement. As this is where they're saying they want to put a lot of these programs. I know there's been some pushback on these things in the past about us having too many police in certain areas that are considered to be high crime or whatever it is, or designated as such, right?
We want to engage in those areas in these non-enforcement ways and let the public know that, this isn't the only time you have to see us, is when you call 911. We want to partner. We want to be better partners with the community.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any other questions, commissioners? I believe for a vote for these changes. You have something, Williams?
Thank you for your due diligence on these policies and procedures and keeping up with them. Thank you. I make
Yes.
a motion to accept the adopt.
Did you just make Commissioner Williams?
I was just gonna say, I move to accept the changes.
But I
I'll
think,
second it. Yes,
oh,
I'll second it.
I thought the motion, Commissioner Williams.
I'll second it. It's fine.
Okay.
Either or. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Good night, Lieutenant. It must be Christmas. Because everybody.
You
Either
are,
that
I've never had a problem with the board.
or finish. right,
Commissioner
so-
Williams, I think he wanted you to spell it out and quote all three policies.
I know he did, but he didn't ask. he,
All right,
didn't
so
ask
let's,
he didn't ask Diaz to do it, so I'm a fall in line.
three policies that I believe that's what the two of you are making your motions for, first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have no opposition. All right. Properly moved and accepted. Thank you, Lieutenant
You're welcome.
Cotto.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
You're welcome.
All right, and then for old business, nothing, correspondence, nothing, letters of appreciation, nothing. And then we have number 8, widow's pension, a request from Mrs. Lorraine Mary Diaz to receive a widow's pension. So Lieutenant Cotto, is all her paperwork in order?
Yes, sir. I believe once the board convenes on the regular board meeting, we start up on the Plan A trustee.
Right. So everything's in order as far as you can tell, right? All right.
I have a question on this, and it's more of a parliamentary question, Commissioner Farrell. This is my father's cousin who was a hero to me as I was growing up. And I want to make sure that I'm in line if I vote on this. I wouldn't benefit from it, but I wouldn't not want to vote on it either. He was a great police officer.
Well, I think your vote would be superfluous, but if even if as a just as a gesture, if you will, or symbolically, you can vote on it, right? So
I appreciate it.
but when we reconvene as the trustees of Plan A, then we can address that, or the members of Plan. But
I
thank you
appreciate it.
And my condolences to you.
No, thank you.
Number 9, City Engineer's Office. Request to review certain traffic concerns. We have request to review a request from Mr. Chris DeAngelis from Abesa DeAngelis LLC to install 7 new signs, various on Washington Avenue. And it says this is request from the City Engineer's Office. So it looks like they're requesting to approve this. Let me look at it closely here. Anybody have any questions on this? Or I know normally if I like to have Commissioner Roach on these because he likes to be the traffic investigator here. But you guys feel comfortable to move forward on these tonight? The traffic decision? I see Commissioner Lyons says yes.
I do.
Commissioner Cruz, Williams.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. All right. Now, Lieutenant Cotto,
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused at 9A because I'm not sure he's saying he wants us to approve this or he just wants us to look at it.
I think what he was looking for was for you guys to approve the request so that they could look into it. Because installing 7 signs is extremely expensive. And they didn't want to waste their resources on something that you guys weren't going to send forward. I know the request is a little out of the ordinary, but they did request that you guys do request the traffic engineer to look into it. So I think what he's looking for is for you guys to request a traffic study, which is
Okay.
purview, and then they can, go forward from there.
Good enough.
So just for clarification, we are approving for them to review, but that doesn't automatically mean that we're approving when they get installed, because they still have to come before us. They
Correct.
can assume because they want to get a jump start. And supposedly we're going to ultimately approve it, but that's not a fact until it happens.
Correct. Then I don't think they wanted to waste their resources when this job might only call for 3 signs or 4 signs or whatever. So I think they did a request or approval from the board before they got started.
Now, I was looking at the map. Are the 7 signs where those arrows are? No. I wish that you can display it so that we can all be seeing it together.
It's on
But I'm-
the 7 are along the perimeter of that map that I can see. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you look along.
I
the
see.
perimeter.
Yeah, I see it. Thank you. Okie dokie. Are we gonna
Yeah,
make a motion?
I agree. Like, I don't think all 7 are necessary. Because they're looking at putting across the street from there also.
It's a lot of signs.
Essentially, so the city engineer, and you can correct me, clerk, if I'm wrong, but I suspect the city engineer is going to tell us what makes sense and what doesn't make sense in the situation. Come back to us either approving or disapproving of whatever the request is, correct? After they do their study, but just simply not wanting to waste their time doing it if we're ultimately going to disapprove.
Yeah, that is correct. So they're asking for your recommendation for them to do a traffic study to look at the signs and see if they're necessary, or if they're even in the right places.
They're expecting a lot of business, which is a good sign on their part.
Optimism. So anybody want to make a motion that they go ahead and do the study? I mean,
I'll
guess-
move. I'll move that they do the study.
Second,
Was moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
We got one opposed, so I guess we move forward. But for the record, Commissioner, the study. Okay. Any particular reason, Commissioner, or you just want to leave it as opposed?
Cost effective wise, I don't think it's necessary to install all these signs. If you're looking at the map, they mapped it out and they laid it out perfectly for us where those signs were going to be. And if you look at it correctly on the perimeter, there's signs that they're requesting that are, you know, on the, again, as I said, on the opposite side of their business. So those two, those right there, you know, are not necessary. That's the, you know, so I don't think we, you know, to spend that kind of money to do this survey when they're, you know, looked at it and they've drew it out clearly for us.
I guess the question is, because what's ultimately going to happen, and maybe there's miscommunication, what's ultimately going to happen is they're going to either come to us, either way, they're going to do the study. Unless we say, don't do it, then all the game's over. If we're saying we're just going to disapprove it out of hand, that's one thing. But to the extent that there's a possibility signs may go up and everything else, I think we need to make a determination on whether a study is necessary to determine what should be there and not be there. You were going to say something, Lieutenant?
No, sir.
I saw your hate, but I think that's what it is. So ultimately, it's just a matter of, you know, before they put a sign out, they're always going to do a study for us and tell us whether they agree with the request or not agree with the request. But because of to your point, the amount of money it costs to embark upon this whole thing, they determined that maybe we should make a decision up front. And this is something that's out of the ordinary for us, because normally we don't get it until they've either approved it or disapproved of it. And then we have to determine whether we agree with the city engineer at that point. And so that's what makes it different. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate your input. You were going to say something?
I think, you know, with the I don't know, with them coming forward to ask our, you know, what we really have to take more diligent into what we're looking at when the city engineers come to us and ask us these things, because they've already looked at it and they've already looked into it. And they mapped this out though. Who looked into that?
No, that's
what I'm saying.
That's from the front.
Right, but from what they received, there's a proposal from the company, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what the company has sent them, and they've already looked at that, right? And from this letter, from what I'm saying, alongside, we are proposing to add 3 signs to restrict, right?
Right, but I think what's missing, because when you say they have already looked at it, reviewing someone's request and doing a study is something entirely different. So what they do it like an entire study to determine whatever it is they need to determine once they do this. Go ahead, Commissioner Diaz.
No, I was waiting for you, but from what I see, the letter is from Cabezas de Angeles. It's not from the city attorneys. It seems that the person who's worried about spending the money is Cabezas de Angeles. It's not the city engineer. I think it's more the developer that's wondering, is it cost effective? Am I right?
City is the one that has the concern, because we have to pay for this. It takes time, and the signs cost money. And so it sounds to me that before they waste a whole lot of time doing studies and spending money on whatever it is they're going to spend money on, they want to make sure this is something that we're not going to kill.
Okay.
Ultimately, something that we want to go ahead and give them an opportunity to study it, make sure that it makes sense, or leave it alone. But but it seems, and it's a strange request, like the lieutenant said, this is not customary, and that's why I stopped and asked the question, because it's not normal for them to ask us in advance whether or not they should do a study. Normally they do the study and they come back and tell us yes or no, and then we either
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So my objection is that, let the city engineers address it. And if they come before us with the recommendation of 3, 4, 5, 6, then we take it from there. But to do a study, the cost analysis for that is going to be costly. And then
No,
on top
But
of
those
the
are
study,
okay. But what I'm saying, so essentially what you're doing is agreeing with everyone else. So your objection is not really an objection, because ultimately what you're talking about is what they're going to do, because there's no separation from the study and them reviewing it. When they do their whatever it is that's magic that they do, it's always considered a study. They always determine how many cars are coming, how much traffic, how much all this. They do a whole big old study before they tell us one way or the other whether to put a stop sign or put a speed bump or to put a whatever. And then we ultimately say, hey, we agree with you or we disagree and we want it to go the opposite direction. But they always do the study. This is the first time I've ever seen them come to us and say, hey, is this something we should waste our time on? And so I mean, but they didn't ask us to vote one way or the other. They're just telling us whether to move forward with the study or whether they should. Go ahead, Anna. It looks like you have your hand up, I guess.
I do, thank you. I'll put it down immediately after I'm done. So along the lines of what Commissioner Diaz was saying, I think it is a little far-fetched. It is a unique request. The letter is from Cabezas de Angeles, but it still falls under the city engineer's office because the request to review, it says this request is from the engineer's office. So the engineer's office is requesting that we approve.
Not approve, review. And that's why I'm making
a request, yeah. But it says it's a request from Chris DeAngelis to install 7 new signs. So we need to be careful that if we vote yes, that it's not to install.
It's not to
It's
install.
just
Point of order.
because it's the way it's worded. It's just the way it's worded.
can we table it?
Point of order. We already voted.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what.
And wrote study. So I just wanted to see what your position was. Yeah. But I just want to make sure you're clear about what actually happens here, because even if you look at them, they made a distinction. They already have to think they want to approve versus disapprove. They literally made a distinction this time. That never happens in our meetings. There's always a list of things under approve, a list of things under disapprove.
Now we hoping that continues. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is something we need to have
Not
in
if
the
this
future from them.
No, I'm sorry. Nah, I think it's because, and I think the lieutenant tried to point it out right from the start, because of how extensive this particular study would be. I think that's why they deviated from the normal standard. I think that's what the lieutenant was alluding to earlier. Am I correct, Lieutenant?
Yes, sir. And then I think the cost visibility that, it's going to be costly to install 7 signs. They didn't want to waste their time if the board wasn't going to entertain it. But, it might only take 3 signs or maybe even 2 signs. Like you said, based on their traffic study will determine, the number of signs and the location of the signs. The map is their recommendation. Based on the engineer's review, he may want to put signs in different places based on, the location of traffic. I took a drive with him to down by the arena because we're looking at putting signs in there. And I didn't know signs can only go on one side of the road because of the trucks and the possibility of a truck hitting a sign. So there's a lot of different variables that the engineer does take into consideration, and it is a very timely and costly study. So they just wanted to make sure that the board was on board before they move on it.
And that's unique. And it sounds like Commissioner Diaz is suggesting maybe they should do that more frequently, but I don't know if I want all that extra work. But anyway, I appreciate it. We already voted on it. So the bottom is they'll do the study. But I did want to hear what you had to say, Commissioner Wood. 9B, the request of the city engineer's office to approve the following traffic request. That's the installation of a no parking anytime sign at Cortland Avenue between Fairfield Avenue and Montgomery Street. Any questions, discussions on that one? Anybody want to make a motion to accept the city engineer's request to approve?
No part, I'm looking for.
I know what Portland is. And I know what
Are
Fairfield
they-
Avenue. So yeah, how do they, the Montgomery, where's Montgomery in that spectrum?
I believe that's where that truck, there's a truck that parks there, Urban Taco, if I'm not mistaken. Is that across from Taco Loco, kind of catty corner from Taco Loco? Am I right?
Cortland
Catty
Avenue.
corner from
Cortland Avenue.
Portland's right there, Fairfield. I'm sorry?
Cortland is right down, like in the downtown area.
That's
It's
Cortland.
not on,
That's
it's on
Cortland
Fairfield
Street?
Avenue in Black Rock.
Okay, nope,
Black Rock,
okay,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
It's a catty
There's-
corner from Taco Loco. There's
Okay.
usually, there's a, it wouldn't be a reason to have a parking there other than if people are parking to go to the truck, because there's nothing there. It's an open lot. If it's
So-
on the coming to Bridgeport side, if it's on the going to Fairfield side, there are a couple of businesses over there.
And this is coming from Councilmember Scott Burns. And
A no parking zone, does that encompass that inside of that lot or does it, because it's zone and not spot or space? Now, this is one that maybe we should table.
and that's what it sounds like to me. But anybody want to table? Make a motion.
I'll move to table it.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
All right, so we're gonna table that one. All right, so we table. And now we got the second one.
Commissioner,
Request-
I know you're tabling the matter, but why, what are we supposed to do in the meantime? Do you want the engineer present? Do you want to speak to Commissioner Roach?
I didn't
I
know,
want to
well,
say, I want to,
what do you guys want to do? Because normally I know commissioners will run down there and try to figure it out and come back with a whole report and everything. And I know
he
sometimes.
lives right down the street. He lives right down the street from it. It's in that area.
I just
I
don't want
you
the
know,
matter to die in, Board of Police Commissioners purgatory because there is no answer. So I just want to know, if we're tabling it, what is it that you want me to do?
I would table it to the next meeting, but
Have
the,
the engineer present. That's what
I
he's
agree.
asking.
you want the engineer present for that? Okay.
Or
Anybody-
the council member, someone to explain to us, because if, I had the wrong location, I didn't realize there was two, Cortland Street and Cortland Avenue. So now that it's explained in that area, if it's a vacant parking lot, then why are we doing what's being asked of us?
Okay. Lieutenant, does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or suggestions? And we're putting on a calendar for next meeting,
Yes.
all right? Okay. Fantastic. All right, 9B, request of the city engineer's office not to approve the following traffic requests: the installation of speed humps on Broadway Avenue. Any questions, discussion, motions? And this is the interesting thing with the speed humps. We've always had issues with the speed hump question. We almost never approve speed humps.
Mhm. Right, and I think Commissioner Cruz asked, the question, what would warranty a speed hump? And to the engineer, and he gave us the answer. What, when to and when they do approve and when they do not approve.
Okay. Any questions? Further questions, discussion? Now the table, to not, or make a motion to accept.
I wish I had more understanding of the area. I'm not sure where that is.
Off of Beachmont Avenue.
Beachmont. Mhm.
It's in the north end. It's in the 135th. You Main Street to Beachmont. It's the next block up from Platt.
Okay.
It's like a dead end, right?
Yeah. Well, no, up street takes you to Exeter. It's
Okay,
a
okay.
highly traveled road. My guess would be that because of the lack of traffic, there's not a lot of traffic on that street. Might be a reason. I'm just assuming. I mean, everybody throughout Bridgeport, that's the biggest gripe I've ever heard, especially with my wife being on the council, is speeding. What can we do about speeding? I know speed humps work, but some streets, I guess the traffic engineer just doesn't see fit to put them on slower traveled streets. I know it's a very, very slow traveled street. It must be 15, 18 houses on that street. And again, it doesn't really tie into any major artery.
Mhm.
Linda's hand is up, but I also had a question. Or I was
What?
gonna make a statement. Linda's hand is up.
Oh, I don't see Linda
You see Linda?
Linda's
See her.
iPhone?
up though.
That's a mistake.
Oh.
Sorry.
I just wanted to acknowledge and not ignore.
No, that's a mistake. I apologize.
No problem. So I just wanted to say that I drive by there pretty frequently, and so I just like to make a motion to approve the request of the city engineer's office not to approve.
Accept it. Yeah.
Second.
I'll say it's moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
I oppose. No, nobody's opposed. All right, so that's accepted. Now, moving right along. Let me go back to where it was. All right. I'll accept a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting of police commissioners.
So
so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then we're gonna do a roll call to convene as the trustee for the Police Relief Fund, Plan A. Roll call of commissioners, Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Lyons.
Here,
All right, and Commissioner Farrell, obviously. Again, we have a request from Mrs. Lorraine Mary Diaz to receive a full widow's disability pension effective immediately. Lieutenant Cottle, paperwork is in order. I'll accept a motion to approve the request or disapprove of the request.
So
Commissioner Farrell, should I abstain on this one?
You can, your vote doesn't really freaking matter on this one.
Thank you. All right.
But you can vote because this is your family. You want to be the person not voting. If you want to vote.
Okay.
So-
Thank you. Thank you.
That's what, yeah, I don't want you to. Go ahead. Are you trying to say something, Lieutenant?
Yeah, and I learned this this week, so I apologize if you guys already know this. But regarding these applications, this is a full disability request from the widow, Miss Mary Diaz. On the death certificate, it actually has the cause of death, which coincides with the disability.
Mm,
I believe that's how you guys are supposed to look at them, to whether you're going to approve a full disability pension or kick it back to a regular disability pension. In this case, it does line up where he did pass as a result of his disability. But had he gotten hit by a car and passed, and he's on a disability for, like heart and hypertension, it doesn't add up. So when I put this information in there, it's for you guys to review and to make sure that the cause of death coincides with the disability. And in this case, it does match 100%. So I apologize if each of you knew this, but I didn't know this. So this
Well,
that was passed on from civil service.
Well, let's be clear, and I'm not going to pretend that I necessarily knew that. In the past, happened is, that's just being honest. In the past, what's happened is we've relied on the clerk to do it, and that's why I asked whether or not the paperwork is in order. And so,
mhm,
and I'm glad you're telling us that, because it's important. To the extent that we're voting on it, we shouldn't be voting blind. I appreciate your input.
Rubber stamping stuff because, like I said, I got this with no instructions. And someone from civil service actually explained to me what I was supposed to do. So I was on the impression that you guys knew this information, and I just didn't want you rubber stamping stuff because it's procedural. But the difference between a disability pension and a regular pension, a disability pension is 100% of the retiree's salary. A regular pension is 50% of the officer's salary at the time of retirement. So it is the difference of a lot of money. And the last thing that we want to do is, each and every one of your names is going to be on this when you approve it. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of what it is exactly that we're doing. So, like I said before, I want you guys to be involved in everything regarding the pension. And I don't want to close you guys out of anything because I'm not the Board of Police Commissioners. You guys are the Board of Police Commissioners. My job is to make sure that you guys have the information to do your jobs. So, by all means, I don't mind, reviewing information, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of what it is that you're actually voting on and how to do it correctly. So I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
if you guys did know this.
No,
Thank you.
but I appreciate it. Like I said, I've been a police commissioner, I guess slightly longer than Tom Lyons, certainly shorter than Commissioner Cruz. She was here long before I got here, I think. But I honestly, I've relied on the clerks reviewing the information. I can think of only a couple of times where we've questioned anything to do with a pension, whether it was rejected or accepted. So, or the request was rejected to or accepted. So thank you for your input, and I'll be more diligent in the future to look for what you're talking about. So you just might have just opened the door for us calling you and asking you more questions for the next one. That's all. But it looks like the motion was made, right? I think Anna made the. We got a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Question.
Excuse me?
Can I make a recommendation? Not a question. When we're receiving these death certificates, can you deduct the social security numbers off of these records?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
So part of my responsibilities is providing you guys with an original document. If
I agree,
it's not
but
a document. So
yeah,
I have to provide you with an original document.
right.
Problem-
But I'm making a recommendation to ask that the social security be not on these.
Yeah, to the extent that you're supposed to give us the original, And that's a question, another question for city attorney's office. But I agree that it's kind of dangerous to,
Yeah.
or whatever, to be doing that. But once again, another good point, Lieutenant. So you're educating us, even though you're brand new. You're you're shedding light on some of our cracks, if you will, or some of our things.
I told you I got this with no instructions, and I think each and every one of you know me that I'm gonna ask questions and not get involved with something that I don't completely know, because I don't like winging it. And I probably do something that I am not fully into. So, you know, I've asked all the questions in the world, and I'm still learning.
Winging it's for amateurs, I was told by a guy I couldn't stand. And then also to Commissioner Williams, both of you being neophytes and both obviously bringing some new life to the board. So I appreciate both of your insight, input, and willingness to jump in and make us better. So that being said, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Can I make a recommendation that we ask the question from the city's attorneys? But I don't think it's an issue, because when you have audited purposes, you can deduct the social security number, at least the first 6 or whatever it is, 5.
Yeah.
I don't even know what our numbers are.
Yeah.
It's late. But you can, you don't have to put the whole number there. You can just leave partial of that social security number. But for for me, and I'm just thinking, I know we're not doing paper anymore, but for those who do print it, but it's also being, disseminated via the internet. So if someone else can get into this, they can get that number. And I'm just, I'm leery because I've been a victim of fraud on several occasions.
No, your point's well. Like I said, I intend to address it with the attorney's office. I'm sure Lieutenant got the message, right? You got the memo?
Yes, I just don't know if I have the technology or a way to redact it. And I'll give you a perfectly good example. When we put our policies on the internet, there was certain sensitive information that shouldn't have went out. So what I did was I started with the black highlighter, and I started highlighting stuff in Word. So I got a phone call from the city attorney that there's a way to
Do it.
change the contrast
Mm-hmm.
and remove all my black highlights
Mm-hmm.
so that they could actually see exactly what it was that I was. So I had to take all those old policies out and delete the language because I had it in a Word file. This is a PDF. I don't have anything other than taking a black magic marker and crossing it out, which but it doesn't work because it was defeated on our policies. So I have no problem doing it if somebody can see how to do it without.
I can teach. I don't know what PDF platform you have. I have it where I'm able to do all kinds of stuff with my PDF, change, manipulate, redact, everything on my
I don't have level.
Send it to me, I'll redact it. No, but
Okay.
I say ask the question, get the answer, do what we need to do. The point is well taken. I'm absolutely concerned about sharing social securities. I get the concern, and I don't ignore it. And like I said, I appreciate having both of you on the board to wake us up to, where, like I said, where our blind spots are. So I appreciate that too. But I think there's a motion on the floor, or nobody made the motion. We never got to the motion.
I've been trying to ask a question. Thank you, Commissioner Farrell. I keep raising my hand and you don't see it. I don't know, what am I supposed to do?
You got to use the automated hand. They don't see it.
I did that too. At one point.
I'm sorry.
No, I just want to thank Lieutenant Cottle. Thank you for that information. And I think that it's been a while since we did a pension. And so even though you're learning, we appreciate you learning, but the ducks have to be in order, right? So when Commissioner Farrell or Commissioner Roach asks the paperwork in order, it's important that you understand the same way we need to understand, because you learning that is just reminding us. I knew that, but it's been a while. And so reminding us today that it has to coincide and match the death certificate. That's really critical. As far as, retracting the social security number, what are we gonna do with the original, even though you're scanning it on for us to all see the same one? You can make a copy of that original and scan it and white it out. Leave the
Mhm.
last 4 digits. We're good with that. We're not printing it out. We don't need it for anything. Just a suggestion. And the work that I do is possible. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Okay, Merry Christmas. Okay.
Commissioner
Ending on a
Cruz,
good note, right?
it's more work. Everyone else does something.
Just one paper. How often do we get those?
All right, any more recommend? I'm actually going back to work, guys, in the next 5 minutes. So
All right.
Lucky
any
you.
more lucky? I guess I am lucky to have
Mhm. Yes.
a motion to adjourn from anyone.
So move, so move.
I got a
Second.
first and second, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Merry
Thank you,
Christmas.
everyone.
Merry
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Have a
Christmas,
blessed
Joe
Safe one.
and Linda,
Everyone.
Lieutenant, Commissioners.